All right, good afternoon, everyone. We just want to thank you for joining us for this very important panel on Newark's Equitable Growth Commission. This commission was created in 2018 with a very simple but important premise. And that premise was that as Newark progresses, that it should not be a place that displaces folks who are already here. And so we have this illustrious panel here, and each person is going to have an opportunity to introduce themselves, and they're going to talk about 3 to 5 minutes. Given the fact that we have a larger panel, we can't do how we did it this morning. So they're going to talk about 3 to 5 minutes about the importance of this commission, as well as the work that they've done to ensure that as Newark progresses, the people that have lived here and have worked here and has grown here has a stake in that progression. And so we'll start with Joseph De La Fave. Yes, you give you an opportunity to speak about the things that the questions that we presented to you, as well as the importance of this Equitable Growth Commission.
Okay, good afternoon. So I'm first, evidently.
Yeah.
I guess I just want to start by saying that I grew up in Hoboken, born and raised there, and lived in public projects housing growing up. Certainly understand and appreciate the importance of having a roof over your head and stable housing in spite of family circumstances and income. I also want to share with you that the Hoboken that you may know of today was not always the Hoboken of yesterday, as some of you probably are aware. But what many people are not aware of is that it did not happen with a snap of the fingers. It actually was a violent and horrific change that occurred in the city over years. In the years 78 through 82 or 83, there were over 500 arson for profit fires. As the city was going through changes, gentrification was occurring, property values were began to skyrocket, and developers had their sights set on profit making. In the midst of that turmoil, with numerous people, dozens of people dying, including my daughter's pre-K class ending the school year with 3 fewer classmates who had perished that year through fires. In the midst of all that turmoil, we ran a grassroots reform movement, won the mayorship and a couple of council seats, including my own, and established a number of market interventions to try to address these circumstances. Tightening rent control, establishing one of the state's first inclusionary zoning ordinances with the assistance of Alan Malik, who you heard this morning, the anti-warehousing ordinance, etc. And then we also were able to hold on to a waterfront that was slated for 45-story towers. And that waterfront park that you see today, which is stretches from the south end to the north end, was a result of that both community organizing and planning that we did. The unfortunate thing is that the people who were able to do those plans and preserve that waterfront are not the people who live there today. Gentrification in that town has resulted in probably less than 20% of the people who live there having been born and raised there from old families. When I came to Ironbound in 1991, I ran the Ironbound Community Corporation for 30 years until my retirement at the end of 2019. Housing was not a big issue. Environmental justice was certainly, as you heard from Maria Lopez Nunez this morning, as well as other issues. But eventually it did become an issue. And what we heard at planning board meetings was developers saying that they wanted to build luxury housing that would attract people from Hoboken and New York City. And what we heard businessmen saying was that we wanted to be the next Hoboken. And to me, that just sent shivers down my spine. That was not my notion of what an inclusive, equitable, just, livable community would be. So I come to this commission with a lot of that as a framework. When I talked to Mayor Baraka back in 2016-17 about an inclusionary zoning ordinance and then brought a draft to the city, he fully embraced it. as he has embraced so many progressive policies. And we'll talk about, what types of things, cities need, both in Newark and elsewhere. But with the combination of grassroots activism in the city of Newark that you heard others talk about, with the leadership of Mayor Baraka, I think we've been able to put the city on a road towards greater equity and fairness. And I remember hearing the mayor saying a few years ago that probably his greatest challenge is both to bring wealth into the city and to see how we can share that wealth that comes into the city. And have it benefit the people who live here. That is a challenge. It's a challenge that we talk about, constantly, and I guess we'll hear more about that.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So we're gonna have a brief change in the format, but I'm gonna have each person introduce themselves. And when you do, I'm gonna ask that you speak to what does equitable growth mean to you, and what aspects of your work bring you to this issue of equitable growth in Newark.
You want me to go again?
No, we got it. We'll start here with Stacy.
I don't know, I would listen to Joe all day. I'm Stacy Berger. I'm the president and CEO of the Housing and Community Development Network of New Jersey. It's a really long name, so you could just call us the network. We are the statewide association of nonprofit community development organizations, private sector partners, and housing champions who believe that everyone has the right to have a safe and affordable place to call home in the state of New Jersey. And I'm honored and thrilled to be part of the commission. And when my late friend, Dwayne Middleton, who many of you know worked with the administration for a long time, took over in the housing department for a bit and called me and said, Mayor Baraka wants you to serve on the Equitable Growth Advisory Commission. I said, well, whatever Mayor Baraka wants, that's what I'm going to do. I didn't know if I was really actually qualified to be on this commission. It's a very esteemed panel of people. And even though I run the statewide association, I haven't really been deeply involved in development work in the city of Newark. And in fact, I don't know if he's still here. There's a law student who I have the pleasure of having lunch with. And I told him then that over lunch that, I don't actually build things like buildings. I'm not a developer by trade. I'm a relationship and opportunity builder, and I like to be able to bring people together. And to me, that's really what equitable growth is. It's giving people the opportunity and the tools and resources to build and strengthen their own neighborhoods and decide for themselves what their future and what the future of their community is going to look like. So for me, it's just a tremendous privilege to be able to participate in the initiatives that the Advisory Commission takes on, including the inclusionary zoning ordinance, which the network and other partners of ours, like Fair Share Housing Center, work really hard to help support and move forward. And I've known the mayor in a bunch of different capacities, and so when he says, "Can you participate in this and bring information from other places to support what we're doing in Newark?" I'm always happy to do that, but I also think the reverse is even more important. What is happening in Newark and the way that this commission and this city is growing and changing and really trying to build wealth, not just to bring wealth here, but to invest in the folks who live here already and who have lived here, is really a model for how to build generational wealth in other communities around the state. So it's not just that we're bringing outside information or expertise to the city. You all are leading in a way that I'm not even sure that you're aware of, because it's really a model for how to involve community organizations, leaders, longtime residents. Joe didn't say it, but so I'm going to say it. It's uplifting and not uprooting, right? And that should always be the motto that we use when we're looking at equitable development. How do we grow the pie? How do we make the resources more available, more accessible for everyone who lives there in a way that is fair and transparent? And I think that that we're doing this, you're doing this here, and it's really just a tremendous honor to be part of it.
Thank you, Steve.
Good afternoon, everyone. Excuse me, Richard Camerari. I'm the Director of Community Engagement with New Community Corporation here in Newark, and I chair the Newark Community Development Network, which is a network of all the major place-based CDCs in town. Those that have been around for 50 plus years and newer ones. The first thing, David, what's with this apartheid seat? Get overweight. Anyway, equitable development is one of those phrases that can be very amorphous. It's like affordable housing. It's like unfortunately, these days, it's like saying democracy. It can mean a lot of things to different people. I think for me, equitable development, it's providing fair share benefits to residents of Newark, especially those who have been here a long time, and especially those that are most distressed economically. That makes sense to me, but it's not just that, it's also attaching specific tangible indicators, results deliverable to that principle. To that end, I think the Equitable Growth Advisory Commission is an example of one of many things that the Barack administration has instituted. And I don't want to just blow smoke. The mayor's not here, so I'm not doing that for his benefit. That is instituted, again, through the integration of policy assistance with community groups like ours, with CLiME, Rutgers, with I think progressive allies, people in the corporate sector like Aisha, Evan Weiss. We're in a very special time in Newark, and I'm born and raised in Newark, lived here all my life. Well, sometimes when people ask me that, I say not yet. It's a special time, the kind of time many of us have waited for a long time. Having those kind of pieces, putting them together. The commission is just one example. You've got the Office of Technical Services, the Inclusionary Zoning Ordinance, Office of Violence Prevention, Trauma Recovery. We never had that kind of stuff before. Stuff that is coherent, that is comprehensive in terms of dealing with the various issues and integrating them. So I think equitable development is all that. It's important. The other thing, since we're here with this panel especially, I think there's one thing as a lifelong Newark resident, and my maternal grandfather got here in 1899. So some people think I got here in 1899, but I try to explain that. But I can say whatever the hell I want to say about that. But there's this tenet of received wisdom that, you Newark people, you don't like outsiders, blah, blah, blah. Well, that doesn't stand up to any kind of scrutiny. It's not where you're from. As Newark residents, it's what you do when you get here. And I don't think anyone on this panel, aside from me, is actually from Newark. David ain't from Newark. Nancy isn't. It's what you do when you come here. We look for as many good people as we can get to come to our city and help us do the right thing for our people. And I think this is a perfect example of that. So, all right, I'm done. Sorry. Thank you.
Yay.
I normally hate talking after the mayor, but clearly now I'm the average to that. Good afternoon, Aisha Glover. I have the privilege of serving as the global head for urban innovation at Audible. This is my third gig since I came to Newark about 8.5 years ago now. And it's really interesting because I feel like my work has really been the same. It has not changed, even though my seat has. And it's really kind of, I guess it kind of dovetails nicely with today's discussion because I've always been kind of hyper-focused on what equitable growth is and means and can mean. Before coming to Newark, I was at the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and my role was really to think about as the yard was growing, how do we do that with a level of intentionality and what that can look like for the communities right outside of our gate. And so I had, I got a similar call as Stacey and kind of just don't say no. But more so than that, I saw the opportunity to really get in on the ground floor of something that I felt no other city was positioned to do. And I say that because at the time, Newark was still, and still is relatively early in our development. And so we have a tremendous opportunity to put some of those protections in place. When you think about equitable, when you think about growth or economic development, you're typically thinking of new, right? You're thinking of new people, new buildings, new stores, new opportunities. But then what does that mean for people who have already been here? So for me, because